The reason that comment isn't correct is because this really isn't about JFK. I mean, it is, but look, JFK didn't really have America's interest at heart, like with the Bay of Pigs. So the CIA had a covert mission to take these Cuban exiles that they trained to try to go and handle Castro, and JFK wouldn't even give air support to them. So the whole thing was defeated, and yet all he had to do was give air support. It hurt him politically, but why didn't he? Like, people need to look at the bigger picture here, okay? Because let me show you a couple things. There is so much documentation about the amount of people from all over that were coming to be trained for guerrilla warfare in Cuba is massive. Like, they had it down to, so you can see here, most of those selected for training, this is just for Colombia, just going there for Colombia. Selected for training are members of the United Front for Revolutionary Action. You can see the rest of what it says. There were ones coming through the Panama Canal, which is interesting. It all goes to the same problem that then, decades later led to the very same people that Joe Biden led into not the same people, but what these people did was go back to their country and train to others these tactics. So think of all these years, had they just handled this problem, and the CIA wanted to handle it using exiled Cubans and trained them, the mafia trained them. That's what the Chicago outfitters were involved. And then it was expected that JFK would give them air support, and he didn't. And he used the excuse of it could cause problems with the Soviet Union. No, the Soviet Union wasn't a problem based on these. Castro was not happy with the Soviet Union because they didn't want a bloody revolution. So Kennedy lied, okay? But then look at what a lot of this is it's bringing students. Sort of like the way JFK paid for 2 airlifts from Kenya to come here. And he wasn't even president. He was running for president. I mean, if you could do everything to hurt America, he seemed to do it. So the whole Bay of Pigs, he went after this. He blamed the CIA for the Bay of Pigs, and yet it was his fault. He should have given them air support. Then he started wanting to say that they were doing too many covert things. No, everything I've read so far is they were doing everything it's almost scary to read this. Like, scary in the sense there were people coming from everywhere. I could imagine as somebody in the CIA, it's like, we have to do something about this. Like, we have to. And yet, all Kennedy had to do was give air support, and he didn't. And then he blamed the CIA because he said it was a failed mission. Yeah, because of him. Why didn't he give them the air support? These were Cubans. They ended up, most of them, getting killed. He knew about it. He knew what this mission was, but he did not. It was almost like he went out of his way to help Cuba and hurt the people that I'm sure I would imagine. I mean, the CIA was not happy with Kennedy, and to me, given their knowledge, I mean, were they wondering at some point along the way that, this is, we have somebody in the presidency that is trying to usurp America? I think so. I mean, I haven't read all the files, but I'm just saying from what I see so far. This is all with Chile. Yeah, see at the top here? There were 551 legal travelers from Chile to Cuba in 1962 and another 110 in the first 2 months of 1963. In addition, field reports show about 400 illegal travelers in 1962 under definition which list nationals of one country who obtained their Cuban visas in a third country as illegal. Yeah, all of these clandestine, they were all, I mean, I had no idea it was that. And then you can see here, a progressive socialist movement. The only known arrests in the past 15 months for subversive activity took place in October 1962, when 5 members of the progressive socialist movement were arrested following an explosion while they were assembling bombs in downtown Santiago. 4 of the 5 were released after 3 days. The 5th, whose hand had been blown off, was given a jail sentence. The bombs were to have been used against the U.S. Embassy. And look at all of this is just, look at all these student organizations, all these unions that were going there. So many from everywhere. And what did Kennedy do before he even got in the White House? The Joe Kennedy Foundation paid for 2 airlifts to America from Kenya, bringing students here. Sort of almost like what this was doing. And then they go back to their country. But see, it just so happened that on the second flight that the Joe Kennedy Foundation paid for was Barack Obama's dad. What a coincidence. But that's same thing going on here. In some cases, they would act like it was students. That's who they wanted, was the people, the young people, indoctrinate them, then send them back home, and they would carry on their indoctrination. You could see here, labor leaders. Look at here. All of the Brazilians we can identify as guerrilla trainees have come from the regular or the dissident Communist Party or the Marxist-oriented peasant leagues of Francisco Julio. Trainees sent by the leagues were in some cases also members of the regular Communist Party. It's damning. It's really not about. It's about Kennedy in the sense that, in my opinion, he could have handled this and he didn't. That's why I've said for a while, I do not think he was on the right side of America at all. But everybody loved him. He was young and fresh, and but it seemed like, if he wanted to help Cuba, he certainly did. Maybe people found that to be a problem. I don't know. See up here, students and youth leaders. And the National Revolutionary Movement. Yeah, all these different Marxist, communist, socialist, youth progressive movements. And yet Kennedy had, and it's only mentioned, well, so far it was only mentioned once, this Alliance for Alliance for Progress. Yeah, what a term to use. And that it was somehow to subvert all this. But it didn't. Nothing. It was like he was, like, talk about not being aggressive enough when the entire world is going to Cuba being trained for all this revolution in the world. And see, it's here, pro-Castro combat groups. We assume, however, that some proportion of the 500 legal travelers received indoctrination while in Cuba, because some of them would travel, like for scholarships or for learning purposes, sort of like what Kennedy did when he decided to bring the Kenya students here against the State Department's advice. That ended up leading us to the Barack Obama presidency.